Hare Krishna, a very warm welcome to all the devotees to our program on Srimad Bhagavatam study. In this program, we are doing a systematic study of Srimad Bhagavatam, also popularly known as Bhagavat Puran. Systematic study means we are doing a systematic study in the sense that we are starting from verse number 1, canto number 1, chapter number 1, and in a systematic way, verse by verse, chapter by chapter, canto by canto, we are trying to grasp the essence, the mood, the details of this very great Vaishnava scripture called Srimad Bhagavatam. So far, we have covered 78 classes in this program, in this journey. And now our journey has reached to the 79th class, where now we are landing on to some of the very important verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is known as Chatushloki Bhagavatam. So these are also considered to be as the seed verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. So seed verses means like from a seed, a big tree comes out. Similarly, if you see the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam in general, overall, you can relate everything to these four verses of Chatushloki Bhagavatam. So very important. Another important feature of these verses is that they are directly spoken by the Supreme Lord to his disciple, to his son, Lord Brahma. So very special verses for us to meditate upon, reflect upon. And then Srila Prabhupada also has given very long purports. Very long purports. I think 4 verses together, he has spent, I think, almost 25, 26 pages only on the purports. So today we are going to study these, reflect on what Srila Prabhupada has said, what the verse is all about, and try to invest our intelligence to decipher these verses. Not easy verses to decode. They may sound a little cryptic to people in general, but we will try our best to learn them, understand them as much as possible. So with this little introduction, we go to the next part of our program, which is the Mangalacharan, and we will request Charumati Mataji to kindly recite the Mangalacharan prayers. Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanyam Anobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Yam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagagana Raghunatam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijanasakitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Patarupyascha Kripa Sindhuvya Eva Cha Patitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Very nice. Please continue.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. Your recitation was a very pro recitation, professional recitation. So you
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
seem to be practiced in these chanting of these verses, I think, for a long time. So
Yeah.
So very nicely recited. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the opportunity, Prabhuji.
My pleasure. Yeah. Okay, now we go to the summary of the previous class, and for that we invite another very nice devotee, Vrindavaneshwari Mataji. She happens to be from my hometown, Muzaffarnagar. Also, our classmate and college mate. So, Vrindavaneshwari Mataji, please kindly do the honors.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Dandavat Pranam to all the Vaishnavas. So, in the last class, we discussed verse, verses 26 to verse 32 of chapter 9 of Canto 2. So, as Prabhuji already mentioned in the introduction, this section mainly deals with Chatushloki Bhagavatam. So the verse, the content matter of the class started with Lord Brahma being the topmost devotee of the Lord within the universe, and therefore he happened to ask certain questions, or we should say he expressed certain concerns to the Lord. To the in his reply, the Lord spoke Chatushloki Bhagavatam to Lord Brahma. So we'll directly come to the questions that Brahmaji put before the Lord. So Brahmaji said, what are the forms of the Lord, both in the matter and in transcendence? This was the first question. In the next question, he asks, how are the different energies of the Lord working? Like he gives certain and in the next he asked, how does the Lord play with his different energies? He gives a very nice analogy of spider, how it weaves its own web, it lives in the web, it maintains the web, and finally destructs its own web. So similarly, the energies of creation, maintenance, and annihilation. Then in the last question, Brahmaji is rather expressing his concern other than rather than asking a question. He says, how may Brahma be instructed to discharge the duty entrusted to him without being proud? Without being proud. Now, the prelude to the answers in this verse, that is verse 31, under discussion, wherein the Lord informs Brahma that knowledge of him, that is Tat Jnanam, the supreme absolute truth, as it is stated in revealed scriptures. It is very subtle and cannot be understood unless one is self realized by the grace of the Lord. The Lord says that Brahma may take the answers as he explains them. This means that transcendental knowledge of the absolute supreme being can be known if it is made known by the Lord himself. So we should understand here that our efforts are not enough in realization of the Lord. It is the grace of the Lord with which the realization comes. So, further stating, the Lord says, by mental speculation of greatest mundane thinkers, absolute truth cannot be understood. Then the mental speculators can reach up to the standard of impersonal Brahman, maybe, but factually, complete knowledge of transcendence is beyond the knowledge of impersonal Brahman. Thus, it is called the supreme confidential wisdom, rahasyam. Out of many liberated souls, someone may be qualified to know the personality of Godhead as described in Bhagavad Gita. The Lord Himself says that out of many hundreds and thousands of people, one may try for perfection in human life, and out of liberated soul, one may know Him as He is. Therefore, the knowledge of personality of Godhead may be attained by devotional service only. So, tad angam and like rahasyam, all those words mentioned in the verse. Rahasyam means devotional service. Lord Krishna instructed Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita because he found Arjuna to be devotee and a friend. Without such qualification, one cannot enter the mystery of Bhagavad Gita. Then there lies the main qualification of knowing the mystery of personality of Godhead, and to attain the stage of transcendental love of Godhead, regulative principles, that is, Vaidhi Bhakti is required. Tadangam, or devotional service of the Lord, can be practiced by neophyte with his present senses. So this Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu tells us all the 64 rangas of Vaidhi Bhakti, out of which 5 are most important. That is Shravanam, Kirtanam, devotee association, deity worship, and dhamvas. So after this, the Lord will start to speak, like he will start answering the specific questions put forward by Lord Brahma in Chatushloki Bhagavatam. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I hope I did the justice.
Yes, Mataji, you
Great.
did the justice. You explained it very nicely. You explained the 4 questions or concerns that Lord Brahma had put forward together to the Lord. And then when the Lord starts to speak, before he speaks Chatushloki, he gives a brief introduction, a prelude. And in the prelude verse, which was the 31st verse, all the important subject matter, what he's going to discuss in the Chatushloki Bhagavatam, have been mentioned. So we kind of explained to the devotees in the previous class that 3 aspects, which is Sambandh, Abhideya, and Prayojan, is mentioned here. So first 2 verses of Chatushloki Bhagavatam will talk about Jnanam and Vijnanam, which is about the Sambandha Jnana, what is our relationship with the Lord. Then in the 33rd, in the next verse, which is the 35th verse, Sarahasyam, so which is the Prayojan that has been mentioned here. Prayojan means the goal, which is Prema Bhakti, which is the love of the Lord. And then in the last verse, Chatushloki, which is Chatushloki 4, how to achieve that Prema, that practice. So there, the Tad Angam, that is the Sadhan Bhakti, actually has been mentioned. So we told you about Sambandh, Abhideya, and Prayojan. That was 3 aspects. But then we also told you about Jnanam, Vijnanam. Vijnanam means the realization of that. Jnanam means the knowledge. Vijnanam means the realization of that knowledge. Then Rahasyam is the Prema Bhakti, and the Tadangam is the Sadhan Bhakti, how to achieve that Prema. So with that prelude, we continue to move to the Chatushloki Bhagavatam verses. So here, just to give you a little insight of where we are in the canto number 2, chapter number 9, we are right now at this section, the second last section, 31 to 39, where the Lord speaks Chatushloki and concludes and then finally disappears. So that is where we are going to start. So we will go to that verse. But before I go to that verse, I'll just show you the map of the questions. So this is the brief overview map of the 4 questions that Brahmaji has asked. Question 1 is about, please tell me about your material and spiritual forms. That is what we kind of discussed, 1 letter word F, which is all about forms, material and spiritual forms. Then about the different energies of the Lord. What are your different energies? So that is E. And then what are your activities, or how do you play with your energies? So that is A. And then ultimately it comes down to P, pride. So how do I perform these activities? How do I perform these services so that I don't get proud, I don't get entangled into the mentality of doership? So that's how Brahmaji's 4 questions are. The answers are also given in this map, but rather than discussing the answers here, we straight away go to the Chatushloki Bhagavatam. So today, I think we invite one devotee. Vrindavaneshwar Mataji, would you like to read? Would you like to read the text?
Yes,
Because there are
yes,
only 4
definitely.
texts, so maybe you can do it. One person is sufficient for the day. Yeah. So please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, in a moment. Yeah. The Lord speaks Chatushloki, concludes and disappears. The personality of Godhead said, knowledge about me, as described in the scriptures, is very confidential, and it has to be realized in conjunction with devotional service. The necessary paraphernalia for that process is being explained by me. You may take it up carefully.
I'm sorry, this is the 31st verse, which we already covered
Yes,
in the previous class.
yes,
So let me go to the uh, let me go to the 33rd verse. That is the
yes,
Chatushloki Bhagavatam.
yes,
Okay, before I go to the 33rd verse, I just want to make one correction here. So I hope we just now discussed this Sambandh, Abhideya and Prayojan. Then Gyan, Vigyan, Saharasyam and Tadangam. So these aspects we have discussed. What I
yes,
also mentioned in the previous class is that these Chatushloki Bhagavatam verses are also covered in Chaitanya Charitamrita. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada has given some explanation about these verses. So in part, we will also cover our discussion from Chaitanya Charitamrita in the class today. But in the previous class, I made a small mistake where I mentioned this Chaitanya Charitamrita 3.1.51 to 56. Rather, it is actually 1.1.51 to 56. So it is in the Adi Leela. 3.1.51 would mean in the Anta Leela. So this is one small correction from the previous class. Okay, so now and also these are covered in the Madhya Leela. Also covered in the Madhya Leela, and the Madhya Leela references are given here. 2.25, 110 to 119, and then 122 to 123, 4 verses for Abhideya, and for Prayojana 124 to 127. So both in Adi Leela and Madhya Leela, these verses have been also described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. In the Madhya Leela, uh, directly Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami mentions about these verses, and in the Adi Leela, they are mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita as it is, and Prabhupada provides commentaries on these verses. So we will be taking primarily we will be studying in today's class the commentary given by Prabhupada in the Bhagavatam, but we will also make some comments, some references from the commentaries from Chaitanya Charitamrita, where we think that our understanding can further enhance from those commentaries. Okay, so we come to the 33rd verse. Yes, Mataji, please read the first Chatushloki Bhagavatam verse.
yes. Brahma, it is I, the personality of Godhead, who was existing before the creation, when there was nothing but myself, nor was there the material nature, the cause of this creation. That which you see now is also I, the personality of Godhead, and after annihilation, what remains will be I, the personality of Godhead.
Hmm. So, Vrindavaneshwari Mataji, what was the first question of Brahmaji? What was it regarding?
It was regarding about matter and transcendence,
It was about Lord's form.
the form,
Although
the
you are
form of
transcendental, but you also appear to
exhibit
have a
different.
material form. How is it
Yes.
possible? So it is mainly about form of the Lord. So that was the main question. And also we understood that Chatushloki Bhagavatam 1 verse will also tell us about what other thing? What other thing
About the
will?
energies of the Lord
No, that is
and
not, no. What is this going to reveal is about? Sambandh, Abhideya, Prayojan, what it is going to tell us among these three?
I think this is the Sambandha.
Sambandha. So keep those two things in mind. It is going to tell us about the form, transcendental form and material form, and also the sambandha. The sambandha means the relationship. The Lord is going to reveal us His relationship in these verses. So both the aspects you keep in mind while we are going to study these verses. So
Okay.
first of all, what Brahmaji, it is being addressed to Brahma. This is spoken by Lord Himself. So he's saying Brahma, it is I, the personality of Godhead, who was existing before the creation, when there was nothing but myself, nor was there the material nature, the cause of this creation. That which you see now is also I, the personality of Godhead, and after annihilation, what remains will also be I, the personality of Godhead. So, first of all, uh, there are three times there is a mention of the word I. Brahma, it is I. Then that which you see now is also I, and what remains after annihilation will also be I. So, like this, you will find that in the purport also Srila Prabhupada will emphasize on this word I. What does it actually mean? So, this is the translation of the verse, the Sanskrit verse. But since we are going to pay some special attention on the verse itself, uh, we have just got the idea from the translation. What does it tell? But we will do a little more detail understanding of this verse by critically studying each and every word of this verse. So before we go to the detail word by word meaning and then further explanation, let us first of all recite this verse. So Vrindavaneshwari Mataji, please
Yes,
recite together with me.
yes, Prabhu.
Aham evasam evagre
Aham evasam evagre
nanyad yat sadasat param
nanyat yat sat asat param
paschadaham yad etaccha
paschadaham yadetaccha
yah avashishyet sahasmi aham.
यः अवशिष्येत सः अस्मि अहम्
Aham evasam evagre
अहम् एवासम् एवाग्रे
nanyad yat sadasat param
नान्यद् यत् सदसत्परम्
paschadaham yad etaccha
पश्चादहं यदेतच्च
ya avashishyet sahasmi aham.
यः अवशिष्येत सः अस्मि अहम्
Now in this verse in the Sanskrit here, if you see the last line, I have broken the words. So yaha avashishyeta, actually it becomes yova shishyeta. Yova shishyeta. There is a sandhi that will go together, and then it will become yova shishyeta, and then sas sasmi sosmya, it will become sosmya aham. Sosmya aham. Sosmya aham. So in order to make the word meanings very clear, I have broken the sandhi here just for ease of understanding. So you can read the original text in the book or on the website to get a correct pronunciation here. Now we go to the word by word meaning. Aham. Aham here actually referring to I, the personality of Godhead. So if you read Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary, so Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentaries in general are very expressive, are very conversational in nature. Conversational means he kind of presents the summary in a way as if the conversation is going on between Lord Brahma and Lord Vishnu. So in the commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he's saying that it appears as if the Lord is pointing his finger to his chest and he's mentioning this verse. I, the personality of Godhead. So, like sometimes when person want to say I, he might point out his finger towards him and say I. So similarly, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has this knack of providing his commentary in a way of a conversation. So he's presenting something graphically and he's saying that it appears as if the Lord is raising his finger, pointing towards his chest and saying, I, the personality of Godhead. And then the next word is Eva. Eva means certainly. Certainly means like you might have heard this Sanskrit words, Tvameva Mata cha Pita Tvameva, Tvameva Bandhu cha Sakha Tvameva, Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Tvam Eva. So Vrindavaneshwari Mataji, when we say Tvameva Mata cha Pita Tvameva, So what
Yes.
does it mean? What when we say tvam eva, what does it mean?
You only.
You only. You only is our father. You only is our mother. You only is our friend. You only is our well-wisher, like that, right? So here, Eva, Prabhupada translate this as certainly, but Eva actually also means only. I, the personality of Godhead, certainly, or we may also say only. Aham eva. Asam. Asam means existed. Ev agre. Ev agre. In the beginning. Agre. Agre means what? In the front. Agre means in the front. So, like we say agrim. In Hindi also we say agrim. Agrim means in the front. So, in the beginning, the Lord is pointing his finger towards his chest and he's saying, I certainly existed in the beginning. And then in the second line, he says, Na anyad. Na anya. Na anya. Na means no, nothing. And then anya means anything else. So, never anything else. Yat. Yat. All those. All those means he's referring to the material creation. Yat. Sad asat param. The effect and the cause. So sad asat. The word sat in Sanskrit has many meanings. Sat means eternal. Sat also means saintly. Sat also means truth. Sat also means effect. Asat means the cause and Sat means the effect. So Sad Asat means actually cause and effect. Everything in this world has a cause and every effect in this world has a cause. So he's saying the effect and the cause, and then Param. Param means the supreme. Now, if you decode the first two lines, in the first two lines, the Supreme Lord is saying, I, the personality of Godhead, only existed in the beginning, and there was nothing else. There was nothing else. All those. There was nothing else, all those. The effect, the cause, the supreme. So, what he's trying to say here is actually, I am the supreme cause and effect. I am the supreme Sad Asat. I am the cause of all causes. So, you might have heard this verse Sarva Karana Karanam. Sarva Karana Karanam. So actually, he's trying to say that he is the absolute truth. He is the absolute truth. So Vrindavaneshwari Mataji, have you heard this word absolute truth in the past? Have you read in
Yes.
the Srimad Bhagavatam and other Vedic literature?
Shloka number one.
The verse comes in Brahma Samhita.
Yeah, no, absolute truth. Have you heard this absolute truth?
Yes.
Param
This is
Satya.
first shloka, no? Bhagavatam. Shloka.
Bhagavatam. Param Satya. Yes, Mataji, have you heard this word
Yes,
Param
yes.
Satya?
The 111.
Yeah.
One,
So
one, one.
what do you think? What do you think the word actually indicates? What does it mean, Param Satya?
Param Satya is the Lord Himself.
No, that is fine. But what does it mean?
Param Satya is no other Satya is greater than Him.
Yeah. That is another way of saying Param Satya. I mean, but how do you explain it to somebody who is maybe not so conversant about these difficult terms like Param Satya and so on? What does it mean in simple terms? What does it signify, Param Satya?
I think the
Param Satya in English would mean absolute truth.
Param Tattva, Krishna,
So Param
or
Satya, what is the opposite of Param Satya? What is the
Asatya,
opposite of absolute truth?
which is not truth, which is
Relative truth. One is
relative.
absolute,
Yes,
one is
yes,
absolute,
yes.
one is relative.
Relative.
So
Right.
what exactly does it mean by absolute truth?
Which never change.
Okay, which never change.
Kutastha.
Anything else?
It is the same before, in the middle, and in the end.
No. Okay, let me explain it in simple terms. See, Param Satya is absolute truth, and the other word, other meaning or opposite meaning for this is relative truths.
Yes.
Relative truth. So Lord is the absolute truth, and everything else is a relative truth.
Yes.
What does it mean? What does it mean? Say, for example, I'll give you a hint. Are we absolute truth or are we relative truths?
Relative truth.
Relative truth. What does it mean? How do you explain it to somebody of maybe a 5-year-old child or maybe a 7-year-old child, in simple terms, what does it mean by relative truth?
Relative truth is also true, but it is not permanent. Well, I don't know really. The words are failing me.
Yeah.
Haste bhati priye. I mean, we
Hmm.
go through 6 phases. We are conceived, born, mature, grow,
No,
and
that is no. It's a very simple answer, and I would request. I have actually covered this point in our previous classes also, maybe long back. But I keep on emphasizing that these simple terms, we need to make a small notebook and try to register their meaning there and keep on repeating and revising them every now and then. Because in order to understand our Shastra, a precise understanding of these terminologies, these words is very important. So absolute truth in simple terms means from where everything comes.
Oh, yes.
From everything comes. Janma desya yataha.
The
The origin.
originator.
So
Yes.
that is actually means absolute truth. And when we talk about relative truth, it means that our existence actually depends upon something else.
I think you
So
told us in Ishopanishad also.
yeah, I keep on telling this every now and then, and I keep on checking this every now and then, and generally people or devotees keep on forgetting it. But what I'm trying to do this in a very question answer manner or in a very intriguing manner is so that it kind of sinks into the understanding and the memory of devotees. What is the meaning of the word absolute truth? The moment you read something like Param Satya, absolute truth, just try to understand in what context it is being mentioned. And every time you will find that it is being mentioned in the context that from where everything comes, source of everything. And Prabhupada used to explain this word absolute truth in a very simple way. He would say that you have come from your parents have come from your parents, your
Yes.
parents have come from their parents. And
Yes.
like this, if you kind of continue to build a chain, where does this chain end? The
In the
chain,
Lord.
it ends wherever this chain end, that is the absolute truth.
Yeah.
That is the absolute truth. So different type of transcendentalists actually differ on the conception of absolute truth. If you go to the impersonalists, how do you recognize that somebody is an impersonalist? Simply you ask this question, what is your definition of absolute truth? He will say impersonal Brahman, Brahma Jyoti.
Yes.
And we don't say that. We say Lord Sri Krishna is the absolute truth. So that is how you can differentiate between the point. Now here, why I'm doing all this discussion, because here it is Sad Asat Param. Sad Asat Param. And he's saying that I, the personality of Godhead, like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is explaining, I, the personality of Godhead, only existed in the beginning. Nothing else. I am the cause and effect. I am the supreme cause and effect. I am the, actually he's saying that I am the Param Satya. I am the absolute truth. I am the cause of all causes. I am the Sarva Karana Karanam. So sometimes in the some of the scriptures, sometimes Brahman is mentioned as the absolute truth. But here it is being clarified here. Brahman, Sarvam Khalvavidam Brahman. Everything that we see is existing is called Brahman. Sometimes you will read that kind of description also. So if at all somebody is having that kind of description or understanding of absolute truth, the Lord is clarifying in this verse here. I, the personality of Godhead, only existed in the beginning, nothing else, and I am the supreme absolute truth. I am the Param Satya. I am the absolute truth. So I hope this first line is clear, right? Now we go to the third line. Paschad. So Paschad is a word that we see in Sanskrit also, but that we also see in the Hindi language also. Paschad means afterwards. Afterwards, aham. Aham, here again the same translation is there. I, the personality of Godhead. Because of the space constraint, I just mentioned I here, but actually you should read it as I, the personality of Godhead. Yad, all these. Etacha, creation also. At the end, I, all these, creation also. So what the second line actually means is that before the creation, in the beginning, when there was no creation, I only existed. at the creation, after the creation, when the creation was there, whatever creation you see, that was also me, that is also I. And then yaha, yaha, everything, avashishyeta. Avashishyeta means remains. So there is another verse in Ishopanishad which also talks about avashishyeta.
Yes.
So avashishyeta. Yaha avashishyeta, saha, that, asmi, I am, aham. Again the word aham, I, the personality of Godhead. So the second line is that when the creation is done, that creation is also I, the personality of Godhead, that creation is also I. And once that creation also
For the theory of oneness in itself.
once that creation also is annihilated, remains, when the annihilation of that creation is done, whatever remains is that I only. Whatever remains is that I only. So before the creation, whatever existed was I. When the creation was done, that creation was also I. And when the creation got annihilated, when the creation also kind of was destructed, was destroyed, whatever remained after the destruction of that creation was also that, whatever remained was that also was I, the personality of Godhead. So
So,
in this case, you can see here what the Lord is trying to say here is I only existed before the creation. So the first two line is saying I only existed before the creation. This creation is I only. Paschad, aham, all these creation also. Huh? All these creation is also I. And then after the creation, what remains is only I. Everything remains that I, personality of Godhead, asmi. Saha asmi aham. So this is what he's trying to say in this verse. Before
so
the
this
creation,
verse can be
yes.
used to
Hmm.
refute the impersonal Brahman.
Yeah. That we will. Prabhupada has done that. He kind of continues to do that every now and then. That is why
No,
in his pranam
especially when
mantra.
you explained the Sad Asat Param and personality of Godhead. So,
Hmm,
what I deduced from your description, Prabhuji,
hmm,
that here you are directly telling us that absolute truth has a form. That is
hmm.
why aham, 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 again and again it is
Correct.
coming.
Correct. That exactly what Prabhupada also will emphasize in the purports. That
Okay.
here the word I has been used and it has not been used once. It has actually been used thrice. So when
Okay.
anything has been used thrice, that is actually to emphasize. And when we say I mean we will now go to discuss this purport in the next slide. But before we go to the purport, let us once again read the translation. So Mataji, please once again read the translation.
Brahma, it is I, the personality of Godhead, who was existing before the creation when there was nothing but myself, nor was there the material nature, the cause of this creation. That which you see now is also I, the personality of Godhead, and after annihilation, what remains will also be I, the personality of Godhead.
Huh. So this verse has been spoken by the Lord when the creation has been done. That is why Brahmaji had come from the navel of the Lord, right? All the universes have been created. The Lord has entered into that universe, and then after he entered into that universe, he is lying down on the Garbhodak ocean, and from his navel the lotus is emanating, and on that Brahmaji is sitting, taking birth. Then Brahmaji does penance, tapasya for many long time, and then when the Lord is pleased with his tapasya, the Brahmaji actually have the darshan of the Lord. He also not only see the Lord, but he see the Vaikuntha planet, the inhabitants of Vaikuntha planet, and all that. And in this situation, the Lord is speaking. That is why he's saying that what you see now is also the personality of Godhead. You see the creation. This creation is also I. This creation is also I. You remember where the Brahmaji took the ingredients for sacrifice. He took the ingredients from the sacrifice from the Lord body only. So this creation is also I. And then after this annihilation, whatever you see this creation, this is going to annihilate in some time. After some period, this will be annihilating. And after its annihilation, whatever you will see will be I only. So I hope the translation and the individual meaning of all the different words is very clear. And Vandavaneshwari Mataji already started with the further discussion of the purport and explanation. So yes, you are right, Mataji. That is the important message from this verse. And what now I am doing is, Prabhupada has given, I think, a 5-page long purport. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost maybe 5.5. So a 5.5-page purport he's giving. And what I'm going to do this in this class is mainly to only take point by point in summary, explain individual points from the purport by Prabhupada and try to explain this verse through the purport of Srila Prabhupada. So the very first point that Srila Prabhupada mentions in this in his purport is the word I, aham, is used 3 times, emphasizing the individual personality of Godhead. So this I does not mean all formless Brahman. So when there is a personality, then that personality can only say I. A formless Brahman is something which you, where do you point your finger? You remember what I just mentioned. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is using this description that Lord now is pointing his finger to his chest and saying that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, existed before anything else. And I am this creation. And I will exist after this creation will be annihilated. So there is a specific reason why he is using that specific description, that why personality of Godhead is pointing his finger to his chest and then he's saying, I only existed before this creation. So the point that Srila Prabhupada used to is trying to make using this aham, aham, aham is mainly to emphasize on the personality of the Godhead. He's a person, and not only he's emphasizing it by mentioning it like that. Before, if you look at this chapter, Brahmaji's experience was what? Brahmaji took birth, he did tapasya, and ultimately when he was guided to do tapasya because he heard something like a voice from within, tapa, 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 like that. He heard that, and then he did tapasya. After his tapasya was over, when the Lord was pleased by his tapasya, Brahmaji got the darshan of the Lord. So that is how it is going on. Brahmaji did not observe any formless Brahman. He saw the Lord in person. Not only he saw the Lord in person, but he also saw his energies, his associates, and so on. So many people. He even saw Lakshmi ji offering service seva to the Lord, isn't it? So after that, this discussion is going on. So that is why Prabhupada is emphasizing the I actually emphasize here personality. So it is kind of refuting the impersonalist theory of all formless Brahman. That is what he is emphasizing here. And then in the next description that he gives is, the second I exists as individual souls who are created. For example, Brahma. One is a creator I, another is a created I. Creator I is source of all. So then Prabhupada in the next point that he mentioned in his purport is that sometimes somebody can object and say that Brahmaji or the living entities are also present when this verse is spoken. So how can you say that only the Lord is present and the Lord is only there as I? There is a creation there and Brahmaji is also part of that creation. So how can you say that only Lord I is the I? So here Prabhupada is trying to clarify that point, that second I exists as individual soul. Although qualitatively there is no difference between the individual soul, like for example, this conversation is going between Brahmaji and the Lord. So the second I here refers to Lord Brahma. But Lord Brahma also has been created by the Lord. So Lord Vishnu is called the father of Lord Brahma. Why? Because Brahmaji is actually taking birth from what? From where? From the lotus, which is emanating from the Lord's body. That's where the Lord Brahma is coming from. So Lord Brahma is not independent from the Lord. He is actually dependent on the Lord. So the Lord, in one sense, is the creator of Lord Brahma. Creator not in the sense of soul, creator in the sense of body of Lord Brahma. So one is a creator I and another one is the created I. Creator I is the source of all. And here Prabhupada mentions this verse Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. So that is the third point from his purport. Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Eko Bahunam Yo Vidhati Kamam. So this is the verse which comes from Kathopanishad. What does it mean? Nityo Nityanam, what does it mean? Vrindavaneshwari Mataji, what does it mean?
Not sure, Prabhuji. I
Nitya
think
means what? Nitya
relating
means what?
Nitya is eternal.
Eternal. Nityo Nityanam means what? Nityanam actually is plural.
Okay.
So among all the Nityas, among all the internals, there is one Nitya.
Okay.
Then Chetanas Chetananam, among all
So,
the conscious beings, among all the beings who have consciousness, who have Chetana, there is one Chetana, there is one specific Chetana. And
yes.
then Eko Bahunam Yo Vidhati Kama. So among all the eternals, among all the conscious beings, there is only one who is maintaining all the others.
Okay.
Eko Bahunam Yo Vidhati Kaman, who is fulfilling the desires of all the others. So why he is quoting this verse? He is quoting this verse mainly to emphasize that one I is the creator I and the another I is the created I.
Created.
Created I. Created
Yes.
I. So created I also comes from the creator I. So in
Yes.
that sense, that is also the creator I. I only existed before the creation. I am only there in this creation. Everything that you see is only I. That is what he's trying to emphasize. And then the fourth point is when the Lord says I, the Lord does not exist alone. In spiritual world, the Vaikuntha planet are also existing with him. So, for example, how do you understand this point? When I say I, Keshav Gopal Das, if I am explaining it to you, I, Keshav Gopal Das. So, what image do you get? You get an image of Keshav Gopal Das, who is also wearing specs, who is also wearing maybe some kurta or some clothes, or who is also maybe having his own house, or Keshav Gopal Das probably is also working somewhere in a company. So when I say I Keshav Gopal Das or Vrindavaneshwari Mataji says I Vrindavaneshwari, it actually means we are not simply only devoid of any of our paraphernalia, any of our other other associates. No, actually, when we say I, it also means we are existing all together with other stuff also. So, how do we understand this? When Prabhupada is making this point that Lord does not exist alone, spiritual world Vaikuntha exists with him, and this we understand from this chapter alone what Brahmaji saw after he took birth, after he did tapasya. What did he saw? What did he saw, Vrindavaneshwari Mataji?
What Brahma saw?
Hmm.
I don't remember actually. He must have seen the Lord.
No, he must have seen the Lord. Don't you remember the description of the Vaikuntha planet in the chapter? There was description of that there are Vaikuntha Vasis who are together with their consorts.
Performing all the
Together consorts. There were
yes,
there were in
they were sitting in the aeroplanes
and there
they
was
were
the Lord
they
was
were
also
singing the glories of the Lord in
glories of the
choicest
Lord,
verses.
isn't it?
Yes, Uttama
So
Shloka. Yes.
Brahmaji, when he saw the Lord, when he had the darshan of the Lord, he did not only have the darshan of the Lord, he saw the whole Vaikuntha planet. He not
Yes.
only saw the Vaikuntha planet, there's a very nice description of the Vaikuntha planet in this chapter alone,
Yes. Yes. Now I
isn't it?
remember.
Isn't
Yes.
it? So
Yeah.
that is what when that is the point Prabhupada is trying to emphasize. When the Lord says I, that actually means that he does not exist alone. The spiritual world, Vaikuntha planet, also exists alone, exists together with him. Hmm? So
Yeah.
similarly, like when I say Keshav Gopal Das, so Keshav Gopal Das would mean that he would also be coming together with the Kanti Mala. He would also be maybe wearing a tilak, or maybe he's also holding his iPhone or maybe mobile phone with him, hmm? Or maybe he's holding some bag with him, isn't it? So
Yeah.
another analogy Prabhupada gives is when we say king exists. King
Mhm.
exists means that the kingdom also exists.
Hmm.
If you say he's a king, king means what? There's a kingdom also, isn't it?
Definitely.
When the Lord is saying that I am the only one who is existing before the creation, that means
Yes.
he's not existing alone, he's existing with his kingdom.
Correct.
Then there are various quotations from Srimad Bhagavatam Prabhupada provides in the purport, which says that the Lord does not exist alone. So I'm not going into those quotations. Maybe you can read the purport in your own individual time. But I'm
Mhm.
trying to give you the idea how Prabhupada has constructed all his purport, trying to explain this verse. What are the important points that he is bringing out in this purport? Then various quotations from Shastra to assert eternal existence of personality of Godhead. So he gives some quotations from Shastra. Now, what are these quotations? Mataji, can you please recite with me?
Yes.
Vasudevo va idam agra
Vasudevo vaidam agra
asin na brahma na cha shankara.
asinna brahma na cha shankara.
What does it mean? Vasudevo va idam agra. Agra means before the creation. Na brahma na cha shankara. There was no Brahma, there was no Shankara. There was no Lord Brahma, there was no Lord Shankara. This is actually from the Shruti Shastra. Then, Eko Narayana Asin,
Eko narayana asin
Na Brahma, Na Eshana,
na brahma na eshana.
Na Ishan. Ishan actually referring to Lord Shiva,
Run.
Lord Shankara.
Oh, okay.
So, Eko Narayana Asin. Only Narayana was there. There was no Brahma, there was no Shankara.
Okay.
So, these are from Shruti Shastra. So, this is the another point in the purport by Prabhupada. Various quotations from Shastra to assert eternal existence of personality of Godhead. Then we go further. Here, what was the next? What is the next point? So
The Lord
sometimes,
exists.
yeah, please read.
Sorry. Yeah. The Lord exists personally, but works, that is, creation, maintenance, destruction, through his energies. Analogy: a king may not be visible in the government offices, but present through his governance.
Hmm. So sometimes why he's putting this point? He's putting this point mainly because the impersonalist philosophers, they say that the Lord is free of any activities. The Lord does not do any activities. But here again, we see the Lord is doing activities. The Lord did the creation. The Lord will do the maintenance. And then Lord do the destruction also. Creation, how is doing the creation? Through Brahmaji. Brahmaji is asking the Lord that you have actually engaged me in your service of creation, isn't it? You are only giving me the inspiration. You are only giving me the knowledge. So this verse also emphasizes that the Lord is existing as a person. Lord is existing not only as a person, but is also existing together with his kingdom, his associates. But also, it also reflecting upon that Lord is not that he's devoid of any activities. He's doing these activities. He's doing these activities. So analogy Prabhupada is giving is that a king may not be visible in the government office, but present through his governance. So if you ever go to any government office, what do you see? The picture of prime minister. Do you see the picture of prime minister? Do you see the picture of president there
Yes, on the walls.
on the walls? But do you see the prime minister in person there?
No, the
No.
officers in charge are
The
working.
officers are there. The prime minister in person is not present there.
Yeah.
But does that mean that the office is not being governed by the prime minister or the president?
No,
It is
it is governed
it is governed
indirectly.
by the Prime Minister, isn't it?
Yeah.
So sometimes in this material world, we don't see the form of the Lord. Not sometimes, we don't see the form of the Lord in this material world. But that does not mean that the material world, the Lord is not working in this material world. He's working in the material world, but through his energies. So that is the analogy he gives. Then, not only he mentions that the Lord existed before Brahma and Shankara, even the Lord existed before the Purush avatars also. Purush avatars also. So here, Shastric evidence Prabhupada gives that Lord Krishna exists prior to Purush avatars also. So what are the Purush avatars, Vrindavaneshwari Mataji? Do you?
Shiro Dakshayi Vishnu
Ha.
and
Karanodakshai Vishnu,
Karano
Garbhodakshai Vishnu.
Dakshayi,
So it starts with Karanodakshai, then we start with Garbhodakshai, then we go to the
Garbho Dakshayi, and
Shirodakshai,
Shiro Dakshayi. Yeah.
like that. Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, and Shirodakshai Vishnu. In that sequence, this happens. So then Lord Krishna existed prior to Purush avatara. So here he gives this Shastric evidence. Atma Vedam Agra Asit Purusha Vidha. So before the
Atmavedamagra Asit Purusha Vidha.
so before the Purusha avatars, Lord says, I only existed. Then we go to the next point. Please read,
Lord,
Mataji.
Lord may not be visible in the material world in his personal form. So less intelligent may think that he is impersonal. Lord says, the creation is I only. Creation is the material form of the Lord. One can see the Lord if one spiritualize one's senses by devotional service. That is the fourth verse.
So here another point that Prabhupada mentions is that like the materialistic people, they say that there is no Lord. कहाँ है भगवान? आप हमें भगवान दिखा दीजिए, हम मान लेंगे भगवान को. So Prabhupada is saying that you cannot see the Lord just like that. In order to see the Lord, you need to have that vision. And that is the point which will be covered in the fourth verse, which talks about the angas of bhakti, which talks about sadhan bhakti. How can you see that Lord? How can you perceive the Lord in the material world? You can perceive the Lord in material world if you kind of purify your senses, if you spiritualize your senses, then only you can see the Lord. But another refutation Prabhupada gives that when people say that there is no Lord in this world, but in this particular verse, Lord is very clearly saying, this creation is I only. This creation is I only. Creation is the material form of the Lord. Now you relate to the question that Brahmaji is asking. Brahmaji, what was the question of Brahmaji regarding the form of the Lord? You have a spiritual form, but how do you have the material form? So please explain what is this material form is all about. So the Lord is saying that this material form is also I. This material form is also I. Now you remember the description of Virat Purusha, Vrindavaneshwari
Yes.
Mataji.
Yes.
So imagine like this. Imagine like this. Imagine a small insect is crawling on your body.
Okay.
So what will the insect will see? Say just imagine that the insect is crawling on your hand, and
Huge land.
there are some hair on your hand, or there are some skin, or there are some pores on your hand, and this tiny insect is crawling on your hand. So the
Yeah.
insect might see that there's a large land, and there are some trees or maybe some pillars emanating from this land, and there are maybe some ditches, some dents on the land, some crater like situation, like maybe some unevenness on this land, isn't it? That
Yes.
insect might feel like that. So similarly, the Virat Purusha description, what did we hear? That these trees are like the hair on the bodies of the Lord. These rivers are just like the veins of the Lord. These mountains are like the bones of the Lord. So sometimes when you walk in the park and when you see the trees, do you feel that these trees are like the hair of the Lord? We don't see like that, isn't it?
No.
So that means we are lacking in our devotional service. We are still not developed that vision to see everything around as if it is Lord's body, like that.
Yeah.
So the Lord is saying that this creation is I only. This creation is I only. That is how we understand the Virat Purusha. Then, okay, please read this.
Both personal and impersonal aspect of the Lord exist, but one goal should be for the personal aspect, since that is root cause of all.
So now here you understand that Yat Sad Asat Param. Yad
Hmm.
Sasat Sad Asat Param. I am the Sarva Karana Karanam. So here, if we have to target our goal, the absolute truth actually is the Supreme Lord Himself. That should be our goal, the root cause of all. Okay, so that is the explanation of the Prabhupada's purport. So in 10-11 points, you can understand the gist of the very first verse, which is Aham evasam evagre yad sadasat param nanyad yad sadasat param paschadaham yad etaccha yo avashishyeta sosmyam. Now, what was the another question that we discussed about the sambandha gyan, isn't it? That's how we explain it to you, that it talks about the sambandha gyan. Now, can you understand how it is the sambandha?
Oh, yeah. So it directly tells us, like, what is, if I am created and there is someone from whom I am created, my origination point is there. So definitely there must be some sambandha.
Yeah.
So this is
So,
how I
okay,
understood.
I'll explain you in a little more simple terms. Why do you consider your mother as your mother? Because she gave
Because
birth to
I
you.
came from her. Yeah.
You came from her. What Lord is saying here, everything comes from me.
Yes.
Everything comes from me. So you experience there is a relationship between you and your mother. Now here
Yeah.
the Lord is very clearly saying everything comes from me.
Yeah.
So does it establishes the sambandha gyan?
Definitely.
Isn't it, Mataji? Can you see that sambandha gyan in this verse?
Yes.
And also you can see the answer to the Brahma's question, what about your spiritual form and the material form? The Lord is saying that everything is me only.
Yeah.
Everything is me only, right? So
Yeah.
the Lord is providing this knowledge about Himself to Brahma. This is about the Sambandha Gyan. He's saying that He is the absolute truth. Now, can I request you if you can answer what do you mean by absolute truth? From where everything comes.
From where everything comes.
From where everything comes, right? So please remember this. I will ask
Yeah.
after 5
The
more
memory
classes.
is so volatile, Prabhuji. Keeps
No,
on forgetting.
everyone's memory is like that. Mine also like that. But since I keep on emphasizing, sometimes I tend to learn faster than we others. Okay, so so he has answered this question about his spiritual and the material form. So in short, he's saying that he is everything and he has no equal. He is the absolute. That is what he's trying to say here. Okay, this verse is clear. Now we go to the next verse. Please
Yeah.
read the 34th.
O Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality. Know it as my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be in darkness.
That
Acha,
reflection
that reflection, illusory energy, definition, that reflection which appears to be in darkness.
Now, this is about what? Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. So this verse is about Sambandha, Abhideya, or Prayojana. Do you remember? What is it about?
So it is actually telling us the sambandha only.
Sambandha only. So the first two Chatushloki verses are for Sambandha.
Yeah.
So the first verse, 33rd verse is about Sambandha, but this verse is also about Sambandha. But this is something different from the previous one. The previous one was about Jnanam.
Yes.
And this is about
Realization. Yes. Vijnanam.
This is about Vijnanam. Now, what does Vijnanam means? What does realization means? What do you mean by realization?
So what I understand, my little understanding shows like one is to know things in positive way, and another way of knowing is by negating, by in the negative way, by negating what
No,
is it.
I'm asking a very simple question, Mataji. What is the difference between Jnanam and Vijnanam?
Jnanam is the we should know the exact form of the Lord, and Vijnanam is the realization of the form.
Realization of that Lord. What do you mean by realization?
To understand what he looks like,
No, no,
where
okay,
he
what he looks
resides.
like, that is fine. In the previous verse, he told that I only existed before the creation. I am the
Yeah,
creation, and
yeah,
I only will exist after the creation, after the
definitely.
annihilation. I only will
Yeah.
exist.
Mm.
Now, this is something jnanam.
Yes.
Now, for example, the Lord is saying that I am this creation.
Hmm.
I am this creation. Now, do we see the creation around us as the Lord?
No.
No. That means we still don't have that realization.
Yes, we
We
don't.
don't have that realization. So, realization actually means deeper knowledge.
Hmm.
Deeper knowledge. Deeper knowledge means the knowledge once it is understood, once it is experienced, once it is felt, then it becomes realization, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
So there is a difference between jnanam and vijnanam. Now
Okay.
vijnanam means what? When we realize the knowledge about the Lord,
Hmm.
when we realize about the Lord, we actually start to see the Lord
Yeah.
everywhere.
Hmm.
We start to connect everything with the Lord.
Yeah.
Now read this translation once again.
O Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is without relation to me, has no reality. Okay. Know it as my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be in darkness. Okay, so we are
So
in
the
illusion. That's
yeah.
it.
So okay. Just forget about the second line. I will touch upon the second line about reflection and darkness. But first of all, what the Lord is saying that if you see anything of any value,
Uh,
so for example, we see this mobile. This is
hmm.
of some value,
Yes.
right?
Hmm.
If it appears to you without relation to me,
Okay. Then
then
it has no reality.
it has no reality. Know it to be as my illusory energy. Illusory energy,
Hmm.
in other terms, what do we say?
Maya.
Maya. So if we see this phone without relationship with the Lord,
Hmm.
then it is Maya.
Yeah.
The phone is not Maya.
Hmm.
The phone itself is not Maya.
Hmm.
The connection that the point that we don't see it in connected with the Lord actually is Maya.
Hmm.
This pencil is not Maya.
Yeah.
The point that we don't see it connected with the Lord is Maya.
Yes.
When we eat our breakfast,
Hmm.
we eat maybe, for example, bread.
Yeah.
If we don't see that bread in connection with the Lord, then we are eating Maya.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Now you understand what is Maya?
Yes.
So that is what Lord is saying. What does it mean to realization? Realization means unless we start to see things, all the things, everything around in connection with the Lord. Otherwise, if we don't see it like that, that means that we are in Maya.
Yeah.
That means we are in Maya. That object has no reality, but it is actually Maya.
Yes.
And know it too as my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be in darkness.
Yes.
That reflection which appears to be in darkness. Now there is an analogy given here of reflection and darkness. Now, how do you understand this? Here, the concept of absolute truth and relative truth is to be understood. For example, absolute truth means, now once again I am raising this question, absolute truth means from where everything comes. Now, if we start to relate whatever things that we see around us, like this creation has come from the Lord. This creation has, the absolute truth means the Lord is the creator of all these things, or source of all these things. If we don't connect all these things in connection with the absolute truth, then it is Maya. Now here the analogy is used of reflection and darkness.
Okay.
Reflection and darkness. Reflection and darkness both are dependent upon what?
Light.
Light. Both are dependent upon light. So reflection and darkness both are relative truths, and light is an absolute truth.
Yeah.
Do you understand that point?
Yes.
Okay. So here the analogy is given, reflection and darkness. Now,
Hmm.
if there is light, then only there will be a possibility of reflection, and then only is a possibility of darkness also. Darkness means absence of light. Reflection
Yes.
means projection of light into darkness.
Into
But
darkness.
both reflection and darkness actually are dependent upon the light.
Yeah.
If we see reflection and darkness without connection with the light,
Yeah.
then we are actually trying to fool ourselves. We are
Hmm.
trying to fool ourselves. We are trying to not have the right understanding of reflection, neither we are understanding the darkness properly. So if we have to understand reflection and darkness properly, we have to see it in connection with the light. That is how when the darkness and reflection only make sense. Is that clear?
Yes.
So there is an analogy. Using this analogy, the concept has been explained. The absolute truth is saying that I am the source of everything. If you don't see everything in connection with me, that means you are in Maya. That is Maya. Know it to be Maya.
Correct.
Okay. Now we go to
Yeah.
the Sanskrit of this verse. We will now analyze the Sanskrit and then we will analyze the purport of this verse by Prabhupada. Okay. So
Yeah.
please recite together with me. Rite artham yat pratiyeta
Riteartham yat pratiyeta
na pratiyeta cha atmani
na pratiyeta chatmani
tad vidyat atmano mayam
tat vidyadatmano mayam
yatha bhaso yatha tamaha.
yatha bhaso yatha tamaha.
Okay. Now we will go by word meaning. Rite. Rite means without. Without. Artham. Artham means value. Artham. Artham in another synonym for artham in Hindi would be matlab.
Huh.
Like sometimes people say that without you there is no matlab of my life. There is no artha of my life. So artham, one meaning of the word artham is meaning, but another meaning of the word artham is value. Without you there is no value in my life. Without value, artham actually means value. Arth shastri, arth shastra, arth also means value, some wealth. Without value, yat, that which pratiyeta appears to be, appears to be, na pratiyeta, na not, pratiyeta appears to be, cha and atmani, in relationship to me. So the first two lines actually means here whatever that appears to be of any value, yat pratiyeta artham, yat pratiyeta artham, whatever appears to be of any value, if it is rite, without relationship to me, without relationship to me, if it appears to be without any relationship to me, then what? Tad, that, that object, that something which was valuable but was appearing to be without relationship to me, vidyat, you must know, vidya, vidyat, you must know, it is my atmano, mayam, it is my illusory energy. If you see anything around you which is appearing to you of any value, but you don't see the connection of that object in relationship to me, consider that object as my illusory energy. Consider that to be my illusory energy. That is actually Maya. And then he gives an analogy, yatha abhaso yatha tamaha, just as the reflection and just as the darkness. Here he is not mentioning about the light, but it is understood that as reflection and darkness cannot exist independently without the light or maybe sunlight, similarly I am the absolute truth and I am the source of everything. Anything that appears to be to you without connection to me, you don't connect it with me, you don't see the connection that I am the absolute truth, I am the source of that object, then consider that object to be in Maya. Consider that object as Maya. That is my illusory energy. That energy of mine is illusion. That is something what the Lord is saying, and He is giving an example of Abhas. Abhas means reflection. Reflection means, like, Abhas means when you stand in front of the mirror, you see your Abhas, you see your Abha, you see your reflection, you see your projection, isn't it? And then uh, when there is no light, then there is nothing you see, then you see only darkness. So he's giving this analogy of Abhasa and Tama. So is the Sanskrit clear, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Now, in order to give this analogy very clear about the Abhas and Tama, this description of that sunlight is the absolute truth and the relative truth is the reflection and the darkness. This description actually comes from Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi 1.54. There Prabhupada makes that purport, and in the purport he makes it clear. He does not give this clarification in the purport in Srimad Bhagavatam, but he gives that clarification in Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi. So please read line by line.
Yes. In this purport, Srila Prabhupada clarifies the difference between absolute and relative truths with the help of an analogy. Sun, absolute truth. Reflection, relative truth. Darkness, relative truth. Darkness is absence of sunshine. Reflection is projection of sunshine into darkness. Neither darkness and reflection has independent existence. Darkness comes when sunshine is blocked. One stands facing sun. The back will be in the darkness. Therefore, darkness is relative to the sun.
So in order to explain this point, that both reflection and darkness is actually dependent upon the sunlight. Similarly, the absolute truth, the Supreme Lord, is the sunlight, and everything else is actually the relative truth, because relative truth is dependent upon the absolute truth for its existence, for its creation, for its maintenance, for everything. So if you now reflect upon the word aham, in the 33rd verse, the Lord has used this word aham. So the word aham actually only suits to the Lord only, because the word aham means that the Lord is fully independent. When we say the word aham, it actually reflects ahamkar, because we are dependent upon so many other things. For our birth, we are dependent upon parents. For our education, we are dependent on our teachers. For our maintenance, we are again dependent upon our parents. For our food, we are dependent upon nature. So many things. For our life, we are dependent upon the air. So when we say aham, that actually reflects ahamkar. But when the Lord says aham, it actually suits him, because he has created everything. He can proudly say, or he can very rightfully say, it is mine, aham. But when we say aham, it is I, it is mine, actually it reflects ahamkar. So if we don't recognize that when we say aham, actually we are relatively dependent on the Lord, we are relative truths, we are dependent on the Lord, we should be grateful to the Lord. If we understand that, then we can say aham. Otherwise, it is maya, it is ahamkar. I hope that point is clear, right?
Yes.
Okay, now we go to the purport by Prabhupada. I think we will only be able to cover 2.2 Chatushloki verses, but if it is going across well, the message is going across well, then I think it is worth it. We can take the questions later on. Now we will take the purport by Prabhupada point by point. Please read, Mataji.
Verse 33 established that nothing is separate from the Lord. The moment we forget this fact, we are under the influence of Maya. This Maya is of two types, Mahamaya and Yoga Maya. Both are illusory in nature.
Okay, so Prabhupada in the opening paragraph explains this point. So 33rd verse establishes the Lord is the absolute truth. Everything comes from him. If we don't recognize it, then we are in Maya. then we are under the influence of Maya. And this Maya could be of two types. One is Mahamaya and Yog Maya. Mahamaya takes us away from the Lord. And Yog Maya actually help us connect with the Lord and facilitate in his pastimes. So we will cover this point little later. Most of the purport that Srila Prabhupada has given here is focused mainly on Mahamaya. It doesn't talk about Yog Maya. If you want to read a little bit more about Yog Maya, that is more given in the purport given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. But whatever it is, our objective at the moment is not to bombard you with a lot of information and with a lot of purports, because the verses itself are not very straightforward. There are little cryptic, little need to understand with the help of the purports, with the help of somebody. So we will focus our attention at the moment mainly to the points that the Prabhupada has given on Mahamaya. Both are illusory in nature. So they take us away from the Lord. Now, another point. Yes, Madhaj, please read.
Material world is real, but not seeing it in connection with the Lord is due to Maya. Source of sunlight, moonlight, fire, electricity is Brahma Jyoti, which is emanating from Lord's divine form.
So Prabhupada is now giving examples. He's now relating everything in different examples. He's saying that material world is real, like some of the impersonalists says Jagat Mithya. No, it is not Mithya. It is real. The Lord Himself has said in the previous verse, "This creation is I." So how can we call it Mithya? It is real, but not seeing it in connection with the Lord is mainly because of Maya. And then there are examples given. So we see sunlight, we see moonlight, and we see fire. We use in our kitchen fire for cooking our food. We see electricity. We see, so all the source of all the sunlight, moonlight, fire, electricity is Brahma Jyoti. Prabhupada makes that point in the purport. And from where this Brahma Jyoti is coming? From the Lord's body. It is emanating from the Lord's body, from the divine form of the Lord. So ultimately, everything is coming from the Lord. Sunlight, moonlight, fire, electricity, all coming from the Lord. But we don't see that connection. When we don't see that connection, it is mainly because of Maya, illusory energy. We forget. Then, okay, next point. Other examples of Maya, please read.
Other examples of Maya. The absolute truth is impersonal. Living entities can become the Lord.
So some of the philosophers, because of this Maya, they think that the absolute truth is impersonal. It is Brahma Jyoti. That is also a trick of Maya, not able to understand the Lord properly. What does Maya do? Not see the connection. The Lord in the previous verse is categorically saying, emphasizing it, emphatically saying, I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, existed before the creation. This creation is I only, and after the annihilation, the whatever remain will be I only. And still, there are many philosophers who says that the absolute truth is impersonal. So that is also because of Maya, not able to see the connection with the absolute truth. Then some impersonalists even go to the extent that they say that after we perfect our life, we will become one with the Lord. We will become Lord. We will become God. That is even more dangerous Maya, dangerous aspect of Maya.
Mayaya aparat jnanam.
Mayaya apaharat jnanam. Correct? So that is another example of Maya, where the Lord or the illusory energy of the Lord bewilders the living entity, where he starts to think different ideas about his position, his sambandha gyan. So again, you can see the sambandha gyan aspect here being discussed here, right? Okay, another,
Vedanta Sutra confirms everything comes from and connected to the Lord. Brahma comes from the Lord. Other living entities come from Brahma.
So Vedanta Sutra, Athato Brahma Jigyasa, then what is the next sutra? Janmadesyataha. Athato Brahma Jigyasa, Shastra Yonitvat, and then Janmadesyataha. Janmadesyataha also you will see in the Srimad Bhagavatam very first verse.
Yes.
But Janmadesyataha actually is a Vedanta Sutra. That is why it is mentioned that Bhagavatam is the natural commentary by the author of Vedanta Sutra himself, Janmadeshyatah. So Vedanta Sutra confirms that everything comes from the Lord. And here also we see how does Lord Brahma comes. Lord Brahma comes from the Lord himself. And other living entities come from where? Brahmaji creates them. When we say creation, that does not mean the soul, but the bodies of the living entities. The Brahmaji also existed, but the living entities and Brahma, they existed before creation in the body of the Lord in the sleeping form. In the sleeping form. So in that sense, they were not existing, but they were not functional. But once the creation becomes functional, the bodies of them are created by Brahma. Brahma's body was created by the Lord, and Brahma creates the body of the other living entities. So ultimately, the absolute truth is the source of everything. Right? Okay.
Yeah.
Another example. Yeah.
Living entities' independence is like reflection of Lord's independence. Example, Brahma seems to be independent while creating.
So as we discussed this analogy of reflection and darkness, both are dependent on the sunshine. Similarly, we see that living entities acting independently in this world. But that is only because it is something like a reflection of the independence, the supreme independence the Supreme Lord has. Like Brahmaji, if you see in the previous chapters, Naradji asking, you seem to be the creator. You seem to be the creator. Are you independently creating everything? So sometimes people may get bewildered when they learn about Brahma. They might think that Brahma is the independent creator, but no, Brahma is not independent creator. He is his independence is dependent on the Supreme Lord. So our independence is like a reflection of the Lord's independence. Because the Lord has that kind of independence, he has given some minute independence to us also. And using this independence, we decide, are we going to move towards the Lord, or are we going to move towards the spiritual or the material energy? Like, okay, another, yes.
Scientists' various theories about origin of universe, source of life in human body are like Maya.
Yeah. Now this verse is saying that if you don't see anything in connection with me, consider it to be Maya. Now what do scientists do? Scientists make various theories about the creation. Here the Lord himself is saying that I am the creation, I created. Everything is very clear through Srimad Bhagavatam. But the scientists say there is a Big Bang theory, there was that theory, there was this theory. That is how the creation came. What does it mean? It is not seeing the creation in connection with the Lord. That is why Prabhupada is saying that they are in Maya. That is Maya. Many times we try to understand how the human body is functioning. We sometimes say it is because of heart is getting pumping, it is because the brain is there, it is something else, it is something that. So not seeing that how the body is functioning, connection with the Lord, that is Maya. So Prabhupada is trying to give many examples to give you what do you mean by Maya. Remember, what was the second question? It is about the energy of the Lord. So he's explaining
Yes.
that energy of the Lord. How does the energy of the Lord is working here?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now some understanding about Maya, details of Maya. Yeah.
Two function of Maya, covering avarana and confusing vikshepa. Covering function hides the reality. When it is dark, we cannot see the snake present. Confusing function distorts the reality. When it is dark, we may imagine that there is a snake.
So there are two functions of Maya. One is you don't come to know about the reality. The reality is not known to you. That is covering. That is covering. Like for example, there is a fruit plate in front of me and I cover it with the cloth. I will not know there is a fruit plate in front of me. I will not know. And then there is a confusing vikshepa. Vikshepa means there is a reality, but the reality is distorted. The reality is distorted. For example, the example of covering potency is that if there is darkness and there is a snake present in the room, we will not see the snake. That is covering. right? And
Yeah.
and when there is a darkness and there is no snake present in the room, just imagine the room is dark, but there is no snake there. But we might imagine, we might fear, oh, there might be some snake. That means we are distorting the reality. Although there is no snake, but we are imagining it because what? Because there is a darkness. So one is the covering potency, avarana shakti of Maya, and then there is another vikshepa shakti, which is confusing. So other examples of covering and vikshepa or avarana and vikshepa is that the atheists say there is no God. That is covering. Their intelligence is covered. And impersonalists say that the Lord is impersonal in nature, or the jiva can become God. That is confusing. That is distorting. So I hope you understand the two functions of Maya, avarana and vikshepa. One
Yeah.
covers and one confuses. Is it clear, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. I think Vikshepa is like mistaking
Mistaking,
something for the
mistaking.
for other
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Like
Say
the
for
rope for
example,
a snake.
rope, confusing rope for a snake.
Yeah. So like
That
Jiva,
means you
the
don't understand the
eminency
reality in
thinks.
its proper form.
Yeah.
Here the Lord is saying completely, I existed before creation. And the
Yeah.
impersonalists say that the absolute truth is impersonal.
Yeah.
That is Vikshepa.
Hmm.
And the atheists say there is no God.
Yeah.
I don't believe there is God. That is covering.
Hmm.
Okay.
How to avoid traps of Maya? Take enlightenment from disciplic succession, beginning with Brahma. Learn from scriptures like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam.
So how do we avoid the traps of Maya? We need to take enlightenment from the disciplic succession. Like Brahmaji is taking this enlightenment. Brahmaji did devotional service. The Lord was pleased. The Lord gave him darshan. And how did it happen? It only happened because how do we come to know about all this? From Brahmaji, it was the knowledge was given to Narada, Narada to Vyasa, Vyasa to Shukdeva, Shukdeva to other people like that. So in disciplic succession, we can understand, we can learn this art of devotional service. And there are scriptures about it. Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, all this is mentioning what is the absolute truth, how we can come to know the absolute truth. The process is devotional service. Everything is given. But because of Maya, people distort Bhagavad Gita. People distort Srimad Bhagavatam. People distort the understanding of the absolute truth.
Yeah.
And all that is going on. That is what Lord is saying. If you see anything meaningful, but you don't relate it to me, that is Maya. So we will kind of stop here. I hope these two verses I try to explain with all my might and capability. I hope it could make some understanding of the first two verses, which is mainly about Sambandha Gyan. The first verse
Yes.
is about the Jnana, and the second verse is about the Vijnana,
Yeah.
the realization of that Jnana. If you understand that the Lord is the absolute, everything comes from Him. Now you need to see everything in relation with Him. That is Vijnana, that is realization, that is experiencing it. So next time when you go for your dinner table and you eat rice, see the Lord in that rice. When you eat apple, see the Lord's mercy in that apple. When you breathe when you take your breath, understand that it is only because of the mercy of the Lord you are alive. That is Vijnana. That is Vijnana. That is realization.
Yes.
When you go in the park, you see the tree as the hair on the body of the Lord. When you see a river, see the river as the veins of the Lord. Like that. That means you are now a realized soul. From the jnana, you have become realized. So with that, we kind of finish this discussion here. I kind of planned 4 verses, but I think it is good to go slowly and do justice to the job at hand rather than going fast and omit all these things. So with that, we come to the close. All glory to Srimad Bhagavatam, all glory to Srila Prabhupada. Any comments, questions, takeaways we can discuss now. Remember, the next class, Mangala Charan will be by Anuradha Mataji and summary will be by Charumati Mataji. Okay? Aye.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
It's a great effort on your part, and I think you have largely succeeded. That is all I can say today.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. So, Shivanji, you are holding your head.
Too much information,
Too much
overload.
Overload.
But it needs mananam. You have to reflect. You have to reflect.
Yeah. So this is what the Lord is saying. These are the seed verses. Only 4 verses he spoke to Brahmaji, but it has so much information in that. Because seed means when you unpack the seed, there is a large banyan tree in the seed. So you can kind of continue to discuss and discuss and discuss, no end to it. But the point is, this is Srimad Bhagavatam for you. This is Srimad Bhagavatam. Now we discuss only 2 verses today, 1.5 hours. 1 hour, 15 minutes probably. Yeah.
Hare Krishna,
But
Prabhuji.
any questions, Manish ji?
Prabhuji, the first slide you showed there, you said that the spiritual world already exists along with the Lord, correct? So that means the devotees which are existing in that Vaikuntha planet or spiritual planet, they are all created by the Lord only, correct?
Yeah, they are created by the Lord. They are Nitya Siddhas. They are eternally self-realized.
Self-realized.
They are
But
eternally
when,
self-realized. They are associates of the Lord. Yeah.
so from when Mahavishnu, the Brahma comes from Garbhodaksha Vishnu, so Brahma is created only for the material creation of
They are
all the
only for
other.
material creation. Correct.
Okay. Okay. So
Vishnu is
there is
also for material creation.
okay. Okay. So spirit. So okay.
When you read this book called Ishopanishad, that Ishopanishad is all about material creation.
Okay.
That is all about material creation. If you see the Ishopanishad book, the front page of the book has Lord Vishnu's picture, not Lord Krishna's.
But
Correct.
created being can become Nitya Siddha, no?
Yeah, for that they need to do the devotional service.
And so
That's
once
how
we are
they will cross the line from material to the spiritual.
Spiritual. Okay. Okay. Once we land there, then there is we will be staying there only, something like that. Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Once bitten, twice shy.
Okay.
So we understood that this material world is not a good place to be, and that's why we go there. And then once we are there, that is why this whole purification exercise of devotional service. Wake up early in the morning, Mangalarti, Samsara, Davana, Lalita Loka, 16 rounds, devotee association, eating prasad, avoid 4 regulative principles, no illicit sex, no meat eating. So all this is the endeavor that you need to do to please the Lord. That is all sadhana bhakti you need to do.
To reach the goal of Vrindavan.
Correct.
Okay.
That is all you will see in the 3rd verse. He will talk about the prema bhakti, and then the 4th verse will talk about the sadhana bhakti and so on. Like that, these 4 verses will cover all the aspects. Who I am, what is your relationship with me, how do you realize that relationship, what process you need to take, and what you will achieve after you perfect that process. That is the prema bhakti. That is the prema of the Lord.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay. Okay, if I think there is no question, then we kind of close this class, take rest, come again next Sunday for the next balance 2 verses. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Vidyaman.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Rajesh ji. Hare Krishna. Thank you.